Today's video is part 2 of snow and ice spaces. You can see these three areas here where I've painted them grey, and on these three areas I'm going to do them so it looks like ice, which I covered in the part 1 of snow and ice spaces, so I'm not going to cover that now. Next, you can see this large rock formation, and this actually comes from the miniature I've painted before of a space wolf on a polar bear, and that is the actual original base for it, and I did something different for the base. And here you can see a little piece of brass rod, which is for the miniature that I'm going to put onto this later on, so it will connect to the base better. You can see now that the fundamentals of the ice parts are done and completed, and I've started painting the rock part of the miniature. And initially I use Scavenge Blight Dinge. The thing that's important when you want to do things like snow bases is it's not so much the snow that makes it look really bright, it's the darkness around it which helps to emphasize the brightness. So I've used a small amount of Mechanica Standard Grey over the Scavenge Blight Dinge via using the side of the brush, just to add a little bit of a highlight, but I didn't want to highlight the rocks too much because keeping the rocks dark is going to help to make the illusion of making the snow look so much brighter. There's some scores on the main rock formation, and I've chose to use a dark bone technique for painting these, and I've already covered this in a previous video, so I'll put a link in the description for that video. But again, I wanted to keep it dark because that will help then to embellish the brightness of the snow. Next, around the edges of the rock, I've gone over with some white scar just to make sure it's nice and bright. I wasn't too concerned about the very centre, as you can see by the video, but this is just to make sure that I haven't got the grey overlapping in areas where I intend it to have snow. Now, for the cheapest method of making snow, I am using some sand, and I'm actually using builder's sand here as opposed to modelling sand, because the builder's sand is considerably finer. And I mix in some white scar paint with the sand, and you want it with a slushy consistency, and then you want to apply it to all the applicable areas, and then you need to leave it to dry. And the drying time on this can take 2 or 3 hours, so it might be one of those things you want to do before going to work or going to school, so it has time to dry. It's now time to clean up any of the roughness from that snow effect which might be on the trim of the base, and it's best to do it after it's dry rather than cleaning it while it's wet, because if you clean it while it's wet, in effect your thumb is going to rub across the snow and it will affect how the snow looks. The next part here can be a little bit messy, so I would suggest having a piece of paper, for example, you can put onto your work surface, and you want to apply some PVA glue all over the areas where you put your previous sand and paint for your snow, and cover all those areas. And then I'm going to use some snow flock onto the area so it gives it that nice fluffy texture, but because of the previous snow we applied earlier, we'll have that nice ruggedness to the snow. Now it's time to start working on the icicles. So you want a piece of wood, and you want to attach a piece of blue tack to the side of the wood, as I've done here. And then you want several pieces of fishing line, and you can just simply push these pieces of fishing line into the blue tack and they will hold into position. Next, we use an extra heavy gel gloss, and it tends to want to stick to whatever you're using to apply it, so you'll want to use 2 tools at once. You want to get the gel to attach to the fishing lines. This again can take several hours to dry, and here you can see I've put the piece of wood over a old ice cream tub, and there's 2 reasons I do this. This stuff shouldn't actually drip, but just in case it does, it stops you making a mess on your work surface, but also it stops it from ending up lying on something, which could result in it being flat on one side, and you don't want your icicles to end up flat on one side. Now your icicles have had time to dry, you can simply pull them off of the blue tack and trim off the excess fishing line, and then with some super glue you can attach the icicles to your base. Here I'm just showing you how I've added a little bit more of the gel to make the icicles look a little bit more realistic, or at least in my opinion. And a quick look at the end result, and I use Scavenge Blight Dinge to paint the trim of the base. Again, that darkness helps to make the white look all that much more brighter and vibrant. If you like the video, remember to subscribe, click the notification bell, and also share the video with your friends.